I want to welcome everybody to my podcast. This is Joseph Anderson, CEO and founder of Connex. And today I'm here with Matt Zembruski, and we're going to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence and how it relates to technical support and customer service. Matt, I want to thank you very much for taking some time out of your very busy day to be on our podcast.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I'm honored to be a guest here, Joe. Thank you so much for having me.
Sure. I'm looking at your profile, and you describe yourself as a people-centric AI transformation strategist. How do you balance the human element of automation, especially when business owners fear that teams will be replaced? I'll give you an example. I was on LinkedIn a while ago, and I heard that like 6,000 Microsoft employees got laid off because they're doing some AI realignment. There's a lot of rumors going around about AI replacing a lot of jobs. What are your thoughts on human element? Do we still need people now that we have AI?
Yeah, it's a great question, Joe, and it's front and foremost in a lot of people's minds, especially in the professional and IT communities today. And I'll tell you, what you read with the headlines is very true. There's a lot of layoffs happening, a lot of reorganizations happening. The good news I have to share with people is when you embrace AI as a partner, so it's not humans versus AI or AI versus humans, but when you work together and collaborate with the latest and greatest AI tech that's out there, then you become a partner with AI, and then you advance yourself, not only your career and your life, but your ability to contribute more to your company. So what I mean by that is the easiest way to do that is to start using AI as a thought partner. And what I mean by that is whatever is most important to you on any given day, maybe you're a little stressed because you're overloaded for your schedule. Maybe you are trying to automate something at work that takes you too long to do. Start experimenting with AI. Reach out to people who know about AI, right? To get some quick tips. You can ask AI to help you with AI as well. Lots of ways to do it. But bottom line is, the good news is you can work together with AI to supercharge yourself and your ability to contribute value to your company. And that's the way out. If you don't get engaged with AI, then you are more at risk, not only in your current company, but in future opportunities that are out there, because the AI is artificial intelligence and technology and a lot of other aspects of technology are advancing very, very quickly right now. And it's important for all companies, business leaders, and all employees to really start to embrace this.
Yeah, how at your company and your customers, how are your customers embracing AI?
Great question. And it's a very varied response. I sort of view AI as a, to use a wave analogy, a tsunami of change coming. And this could be a tsunami of opportunity. It can be a tsunami of concern, depending on whether you're getting informed or not. So how different companies are addressing it, Joe, are, in general, I work with a lot of clients all the way from startup to the large enterprise, but most of my clients, as far as, AI training and consulting, are in the small to medium business size of a company. And most of them are very curious about AI. The leadership knows they want to do more AI, but they don't really have, not all, don't really have a structured process in place or program in place to really get their employee base, especially starting with their leaders, top down, get them really just familiar with AI. How can AI help us as a company? How can it help me in my job role? What does that look like? Let's talk about it. Let's maybe create a little AI center of excellence. Maybe it's a person, maybe it's a couple people who are passionate about this that can help sort of do that. There's a lot of things companies can do for little or no money, just with a little focus of their time. They can also bring in and get some training and do some things like that as well. But it's really starting to embrace it, and it's not a one and done thing. It's something that's on its way. It's coming. It's getting deeper and deeper into companies. But to answer your question about how are companies doing it, most companies are just starting to dabble. They're not really that involved. And as a result, because they're dabbling, they're starting to understand that there might be something there for benefits, but they don't really have an organized approach to really take advantage of it yet.
And speaking of organized approaches to taking advantage of AI, you mentioned you advocate the 15-minute daily AI practice habit. What does that routine look like in reality, and how have you seen it transform decision-making or efficiency in real business?
Yeah, that's a great question, Joe. And I'll tell you, when I first started, when ChatGPT first dropped their big news on everybody in November 2022, a few years ago, I dove right in. I have a background in technology, so I was always very curious about AI and a lot of other aspects of technology. But when they did that, I was just very curious about, okay, there's a lot of benefits to it in a lot of different ways. But what are the leaders in technology, the people who are really like leading this wave of change with AI? How are they using AI? So I started looking at this and seeing and listening between the lines of different conversations. And the way the leaders who are really embracing AI, the way they're using it is the words that I use is they're using it as a thought partner, as a daily thought partner. So what does that mean? It means it could be before you go to bed at night, could be in the morning, depending on what your schedule is, could be midday. But if you break away, and the leaders are spending a lot more than 15 minutes, but an easy way for people to start, and you can use ChatGPT, all these tools you can use for free. You can also have little paid, you can have paid memberships to different ones and you get more access. But in the beginning, if you're not using it yet, you can start for free. You go to chatgpt.com and dive in. 15 minutes a day, what that would mean is wherever you are right now, planning your day, let's say it's in the morning. You wake up tomorrow morning, all right, I'm going to spend 15 minutes because Matt said it was a good idea. Let me see what this looks like. Lay out your day and just think, okay, what am I trying to accomplish today? And where am I feeling the most stress? Or how can I better organize my day? And then talk to AI as a world-class, super brilliant coach or advisor, right? Just talk to AI and just pretend, okay, I'm going to go talk to someone who knows everything that could help me and see what their advice is on my situation. So you could talk about something as simple, like here's a simple example when you're getting started. I work at XYZ company. My role is blah, blah, blah. These are some of the activities I'm planning to do today in that role. And then you share that with AI. You type it right into the little chat screen. And then you say, what recommendation do you have for me to make my day more effective, more efficient, or so I can accomplish my objectives for the day in 4 hours instead of 8? And then see what answer comes back and start to go from there.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of chat AI automations with like chats. For example, I'm using a software, an iPass, to create accounting integrations, and they have a intercom, and I'm able to ask it certain kind of questions, and I take it it's using AI to respond. But have you ever seen AI like look at a financial report, like an accounting profit and loss, and ask the question like, what product categories sell best during the holiday season? Is that something AI could look at?
Yeah, it's very, very effective at processing a lot of data, where regardless of how brilliant or how amazing our minds are as humans, AI can process a lot more data a lot faster. And they also, I guess it's just easier for them to process. So your example is with a financial table, that's where AI really excels. If you have a lot of information, could be 20 reports, it could be 100 websites, it could be a big financial table of profit and loss, maybe it's across 100 different companies. AI is very, very fast and effective at fully reviewing and using all that data as input and then providing analysis for you on that. And what I mean by effective is it can process all that way faster than we can as a human, hundreds of times faster, like in a matter of seconds. And it can also come to conclusions a lot faster. So in that I've used it for similar things like that. I don't do a lot of financial report processing, but I've used it in similar ways where I had to process certain data or reports or research and then come up with conclusions and then translate that into maybe a social media post that I'm doing to talk about a topic and things like that. Or with one of my clients, give them some information about a particular aspect of their industry.
So speaking of creating a blog post and creating content, you mentioned you do this AI Accelerator podcast and workshop, and you guide a lot of leaders through AI adoption. What common pain points are stopping these business owners from leaping, like creating that content you mentioned? And what simple first steps do you recommend to overcome that inertia?
Yeah, so the simple first steps are starting to embrace that the challenges that they see are I think the challenge that they see is that they're not really understanding of what AI can do for them. So there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of grayness, and many of the companies, the leadership knows that it can be valuable, but they don't really know how. So they're starting to challenge their leaders. As an example, a CEO and COO, I think it was a COO, was communicating with the head of HR and said, "Hey, can you give me the report of our team in Mexico and how they're doing and what their efficiency looks like, et cetera, et cetera." And the head of HR was going to do it in her normal way. But then he said, "Oh, no, I don't just want that. I also want a deeper analysis. Why don't you work with AI to get a more deeper analysis of exactly what we're seeing there?" Because the COO was starting to use AI as well and already could do some of the basics that he was asking the head of HR to do before just by processing it with AI. So he's asking the head of HR to go above and beyond, start partnering with AI to really go deeper into her role and her ability to really dissect that data. So first part of the answer is I think they're confused. There's a lot of grayness involved there. They don't really know what they don't know regarding AI. So how do they get after that? How do they get better with that? I think it's really important to start to not only get education so they can become more AI literate, but practice with that education. The program that I have with self-study program, as well as, a live training program, I have a certified AI practitioner program that I offer, Joe. And that's all about, I stress the word practitioner, because it's not a lot of the AI training, a lot of training in general is very much information based. My program is all about practicing with the information that you learn. So learning a little bit about AI and then putting it to practice specific for your role or what problem you're trying to solve. And then do that again and again and again and again. We do that through an 8-hour certification program. So by the end of it, you have an example, or actually a proven example, of how AI is helping you in your particular role at your company. And you can quantify that. So you can start to get to an ROI in a matter of hours, literally. It's just an 8-hour program that we do there. So the first thing is really understanding more about AI, but then the second part is really practicing it and finding a way to do that. You can do it on your own. You can work with a training,
So you create classes to train companies on how to use AI, but would you train a company on how to build an AI piece of software, or is that not, like, if somebody wanted to develop software on top of ChatGPT, is that what you're training? Or is it to train like a business owner how to use AI better?
It's the latter first, because we start with the basics and the foundation. And that's like my core program, because the biggest challenge that I want to help with, I really want to help people, professionals, bring out their highest and best ability to contribute by partnering with AI. And right there, that's what our core program does. To do building, and I have done what you're saying, that's something my company also supports, and we do. But that's more of a separate discussion, and we talk about it, and it depends on how much assistance they want. A simple version of that, by the way, I'm not sure how familiar you are with ChatGPT and what's available, but if you have the ChatGPT Pro for $20 a month, you can create your own custom GPTs. And this is a simple way. It's not building a full application on top of AI like you were mentioning. It's more of building a simple application, leveraging AI. So then you can build a custom GPT. Like, for instance, you mentioned financial reports. If you had to process a financial report, say once a week, and provide data or double check it or validate it and things like that, you could build that into a custom ChatGPT interface, which is very quick. We show how to do it in our basic program. And then when you do that, now you can use that custom ChatGPT tool that you built every week. And you can just use that. You can upload the financial report and say, hey, give me the results. And it will do all the processing you want it to do just with a push button, because you built it. So the simple one can build.
I know the state of Massachusetts, they have a program through Department of Unemployment. They're offering grants for classes. Is that something you're involved with or considering?
I am involved with it. I actually had a meeting with a woman this morning who is part of a company that specializes in doing workforce training grants and working with small business owners. So yeah, I'm very involved with that with one partner company that I'm working with.
Yeah, great. That's good to know. I'm looking to learn more about AI and see if there's any business opportunities for my company. We do a lot of data syncing with accounting systems, but I'm curious if we can somehow do something with AI.
You can definitely do it with AI. I mean, accounting, the fuel for AI is data. Like, we used to talk about big data, right? Like 5 years ago or so, everyone's talking about big data, how it was a big deal because there's a lot to process and we're trying to get it and store it in the cloud and then process it with all these complex things. AI loves that, and it can process it quickly. So I'm more than happy to talk with you, Joe. You can ask more questions about it if you want now, or we can talk about it offline, but I'm happy to talk with you about that. I have a lot of background with systems integration and technology in general. So AI is just an accelerant to all of that.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk a little bit on today's demonstration, maybe ask you some questions offline. A couple more questions I have like for today's podcast is, like, you mentioned like the human edge in AI transformation, messaging emphasizing core skills needed. Which human skills are vital to integrating AI? For example, like sales, customer service, finance. How should owners implement AI into their sales and customer service? And perhaps this is better. I'll ask it again. How should business owners integrate AI into their finance?
So I'm going to give you an answer with sort of some homework tied to it. Number one, the best answer to that question is going to be by communicating with AI what you know about the situation, and then asking the question of AI. I'm not I have done a lot of work with financial services companies, very familiar with a lot of the data interchange, not nearly as much as you and your team. And I wouldn't really consider myself an expert in that industry. As far as the particular, because you have people, process, and systems. And if you think about the people and the systems that are involved, AI can streamline that and make it more straightforward. So the way I would lean into that a little bit, Joe, myself, is I would have a conversation with me and you. We'd partner with AI, and we would, which just means going into the AI interface and saying, Joe is asking about this and this. And to lean into it, I would ask you a question. I would say, all right, what's an example of one of the processes that your company assists with financial data processing and analysis and things like that? And then we would.
My company sells an analytics tool, and it looks at data in a database to make a report. It'd be great if AI, the problem is the reports are static. It'd be great if AI could look at a bunch of information or insights and then provide like meaningful response. Like it's great. Like in QuickBooks, you see a report and that's great, but you don't know what to do with it. And
sorry, I would just say from what you just shared, that is 100% possible with AI. And that would be a very straightforward value add that you can build with AI for your customer. In other words, the example of the custom chat GPT, this is a simple way to do it that you can do for literally, you just pay $20 a month and you have access to the technology. There's better ways to do it, but it'll cost a little bit to piece a few things together. But let's just keep it simple. You could set up a custom chat GPT interface for each of your clients. And then what you could do is you could load their report in to that one, and you could have key questions made. Like, let's say there's 3 questions that you want to that the typical client would ask about the data, right? Okay, you've loaded the financial report in for them. They can see the financial report. They can analyze the financial report. The top 3 questions: what does this data mean? How can I leverage this data? Whatever they are, you can have those core questions built into the interface, and you can upload their financial data to it. And again, this is all just built within out of the box custom chat GPT. And then you could have each client go to their own custom interface, and they click on it and they see their latest financial report. They can click the core questions and get answers back, which are all AI generated. They can ask any question they want about the data, and it will be able to fully analyze it, process it, etc. So that's all the good news. The challenge here, and the thing that we want to be careful with, is that's all straightforward. If you get deeper into it, and AI is not perfect. It does a lot. Like everything I just shared was all the good stuff. It does everything very, very well. Every now and then it makes mistakes, and it will give you an invalid answer. It'll do math wrong. It'll look up a fact on the internet and it pulls back an article that doesn't exist. Weird things like that. They call them hallucinations. Yeah. But that's the guardrails that you'd have to put in if you were going to be using it with your actual clients. You'd want to do some extra checks and balances on it.
Yeah, I have this analytics and reporting software, and I would like someone to go into ChatGPT and ask it questions. For example, what products should I stock this month? And it can look at the data and say, based on historical data, we recommend that you keep these 10 products in stock and the rest just don't worry about them. Mm-hmm. And telling you that ChatGPT, like I can ask it, how's my business doing? You're not meeting your financial goals. You need to raise your prices here. You need to maybe discount some of these products. Like I think if a business owner knows that there's a problem at their business, like, hey, you're not meeting your sales goals, your prices are too low, the business owner can adjust, hire people, make a change to pricing, set operating procedures. I feel like in this business, even I have QuickBooks and I can't do anything with a profit and loss, but I have another tool called Baremetrics. It's not AI, that's giving me forecasting and more numbers, and it makes me make better decisions. I'm like, okay, well now I see that the revenue is going down, or how many people left after a price increase. So it's good to have those kind of metrics to make decisions. And when you have the right metrics, you can make those profitable decisions. You know what's wrong.
Yeah, what I would do in that scenario, Joe, is I would leverage AI as your analytics analyzer as well as Baremetrics, and see what they both come out with. Because Baremetrics is out of the box using all their proprietary logic. Yeah. AI is using everything available on the internet for its own calculation. It probably has access to Baremetrics, like instruction manuals and stuff too. What I normally do, Joe, is I don't rely on just one. I don't just put it into ChatGPT, say, give me an answer, because it's like talking to one person. you're talking with me on this podcast. I'm one person giving you an example, giving you answers from my experience and so forth. If you go out and talk to a bunch of people, like Baremetrics, what do you think? ChatGPT, what do you think? You go to Google, they call theirs Gemini, and then Anthropic has a thing called Claude. They're all different free AIs that you can get access to. What I would do in your situation, maybe someone on your team, is I would start experimenting with like one client and say, okay, on your own to figure out what would work best, and say, okay, here's this client's financial report. Here's the access we have within QuickBooks. This is what Baremetrics says. Okay, so this is what we're doing today. Now let me throw all that into ChatGPT and see what ChatGPT says. What advice do you have for the customer, for forecasting, for metrics, etc.? What can you think about with all this data? Because it's brilliant at it. And then I would ask the same thing to Google Gemini, same thing to Claude. And by doing it this way, you're going to get different answers back because they're all different AIs. They're not all just giving you one generic answer back. And they're all sort of, I guess, thinking in their own way, the way computers think. So that's what I would do. I would do all of the above. It's sort of like a wide implementation. Again, getting your hands on the keyboard, playing with all this and seeing what happens. And then say, wow, that was actually insightful. Those two things weren't that helpful, so I'm not going to do any more of that. But this was pretty insightful. Let's figure out a way that we can sort of automate this process and give it to the clients.
So would I have to make the report, or could I give it like a bunch of data sets? Like, here's a list of orders. Based on these orders, which products were the best sellers at this time of year? Could it figure that out?
Oh yeah. No, it's very easy. You can literally upload it. You copy paste it right into it, or you can upload docs. You can do anything you want. Yeah. So that's the easier way to go.
So you have so you give someone a ChatGPT interface. Maybe they could click a button that says go like, pair their Connects account, and so it already has the data in there. And then we send it through an API, and you can ask it questions like, "Hey, based on this data set, what do you think?" And then it gives you information.
Yep, you could do that. We can talk more offline about it. You'd want to think about how you want to represent it as your company. It may be more effective to have your branding on it, such as like a web page on your site where a customer logs into, where they can look at their data, work on their reports. I don't know what you have set up, but if you had your own sort of front window on this experience, so Connects would be the viewpoint for them, that would make it a little prettier from a branding experience point of view. But yeah, from the customer point of view, they can get access to all their data. They can ask questions in the interface, and you can use ChatGPT as the core engine for that.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. If you go to Sage Accounting AI, if you search for it, they have their own kind of AI platform for finance and accounting. I was thinking about doing something similar, but you had it more for like people who sold online, because the problem with accounting is you're only as good as the data that's in your accounting system. If you don't have someone feeding you the information, i.e. Connects, then your AI is just kind of useless.
Yeah, you're right. You need a way to feed the data into the environment. It depends on they all have different ways to do it. A simple way that you might be able to relate to for personal reasons is if you use any of the Google Clouds, you have a Google Drive anywhere. If you had all the customers' data in a Google Drive, you can point these AIs right at that Google Drive. They could access that, and you could just say, look at all the historical data. What do you think? What are your conclusions? What forecasts can you generate based on this? What are some things that might be our blind spots that we can't really see? What's happening? All that. It can analyze all that and come back very, very quickly.
Yeah, it's good to know. I just actually purchased a software, and they gave me access to Google Drive. I can move data in and out of there too, so I'll have to take a look at that. A lot of good product ideas here.
Yeah, definitely.
So I only have another question here. You mentioned on your LinkedIn that you define AI as like this amazing innovation. How would you advise a small business owner with limited time and budget to identify which business functions are ideal for the kind of amazing AI introduction?
Yeah, so and the reason I said amazing innovation is because I was trying to be cute with the name, but also because AI really does uncork, and it can unleash a lot of the innovation available, which comes from the humans more than the AI, by the way. So when you partner the humans with AI, that's where you're going to get this amazing innovation. What advice do I have for the small business owners that are doing this is, again, not to be repetitive on purpose, but go into ChatGPT or any of the AIs of your choice and explain exactly what you're trying to do. What's the purpose of your business? What's your mission? What's your vision? What clients do you serve? All this information, you put it all in. What I do, because I don't like to type that long, it takes too long to type, I just dictate it right in. I just hit the microphone button. I just say it, blah, 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 whatever I need to say. This is what my company's doing. This is what I'm all about. I'm trying to do a marketing piece today. So can you give me some guidance on how to do the marketing piece? And then it will come back. So in order for the short answer to your question is the business owner wants to start adopting a mindset change and a new habit to engage with AI on a daily basis. It can start with 15 minutes a day and you go from there. The longer answer is once the business owner commits to try that and just to see what happens, I believe they're going to be surprised by what's possible and they're going to start to trust AI as a partner fairly quickly, and they'll start to get benefit from that because depending on wherever your sticky spots are with your process, or maybe it's with stress, maybe you're overloaded, you have stress. Ask AI, hey, I'm trying to do all this with my company. It's just me and 3 employees. How can I reduce my stress? And then see what comes back. And it's very, very informative. It'll act more like a psychologist at that point. And I have a friend who's using AI as her personal therapist in addition to her business coach. And this is free Chat GPT. She's getting tremendous value from it. When she first saw it, her jaw was on the ground. She's like, I didn't think it could do all that. This is out of control. This is wild. So she started using it as a business coach. It was helping her to design her next product to deliver to her customers. And then she had a personal challenge, and she just on her own decided to start asking AI as a therapist and see what the advice it had, and it had tremendous advice. All AI does, by the way, it's not a person, right? It's a computer. It models human behavior based on everything that it's seen. So it's like it's read all the books in the universe. It's read all the websites in the universe, and it's modeling human behavior. It even does that with language. It models human language based on the patterns of how we communicate and all the language and all the information that's been shared online at this point. So it does its best to proxy a very smart human interaction, but it's pretty good, and it's a lot better than most of us, well, a lot better than we are ourselves in trying to solve our own problems. So it's a good sounding board.
You mentioned that ChatGPT has access to all this information on the web. One request I have from a prospective customer a little over a year ago, I was at a trade show in New York, and he said, Joe, can you compare like the sales that I'm having now, which I'll give you the data sheet, to let's say he sells Frisbees, to the sales of Frisbees like at other companies. Like, is my profit margin on par with the profit margin for Frisbees at other places? Like, am I doing a good, is this basically, have I optimized the sales and profits for this? I wonder if ChatGPT could get data on like sales of Frisbees and profit margins and compare it to the data that we already have and say, yes, you're not making as much money as you could, or your price is much lower than everybody else's.
Yeah, it's very, very good at that. There's certain blind spots it has, like if the data is not public or it's not out there or whatever, if it's out there. So like the Frisbee example, my guess is it could get you pretty close to the answer. If it was like say it was a currency trader or something like that had all this private data that was stored and it wasn't publicly available for you or I to go see, it may be hard and it may have to sort of take guesses on that. But I've used exactly like the Frisbee example. I've done that many, many times, Joe. And it's very helpful. You'd be impressed by it. To share with your audience, the way you do that, it's called deep research, or it's just called research. But with ChatGPT, you click the research button. I think they're calling it deep research. That's what Google calls it. But you click the research button when you type your query in. And then when you hit the enter button, it won't just give you a quick response. It will actually go off and search all across the web, across everything it can possibly touch. And typically it's going after 50 to 100 to 150 websites of all the valid information that relates to Frisbee sales in this case, and profit margins for companies that sell Frisbees and the size of companies. So you can literally say what you said, here's our data. You can upload that to ChatGPT. These are our profit margins and stuff, and our sales figures. And please compare this to the entire industry, domestic and globally, and give me back a detailed report of how our margins compare, how our sales compare, where you think we should start making changes to improve our profitability, blah, blah, blah. You can put all that in and say, go do deep research. And again, all for free. And then it'll go away and not come back immediately. It'll come back probably 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. It depends. Sometimes it's only 5 minutes. But it'll come back with like a 20-page full report, custom research just for you with all that information. I do that all the time. And it's mind blowing, Joe.
Yeah, that's definitely very interesting to know because I have access to a lot of data on sales and product information. So maybe you could perhaps talk about that at a later time. So my last question for today, because we're getting near the end of our podcast, is looking ahead to 2025 and beyond. What AI trends and automations should growing businesses keep on the radar, and how should they prepare?
Yeah, this is a tough one because the future is changing faster than we can imagine it. We're almost at that place. We're not quite there, but the futurists and people who predicted the future and wrote novels back, growing up through the 80s, 90s, etc., all were pretty good about predicting getting us to about 2030, like 2025 we're at now. But, the late 2025, late 2020s, after that, there's so much change happening so fast. So that's a non-answer, but I'm just telling you things are changing quickly. The answer is to get engaged with the industry that you're in, the trends that are happening with AI, and be aware of it. And I'll give you a simple way to leverage AI to do this, right? You can go to ChatGPT and you can ask it to start a recurring task where it asks that question of the industry every day, every week, whatever you want to do. And it'll send you back an email when it's ready. And then you just click the link and it'll give you the full report. And that's how I would handle that particular thing. I do that with various pieces of news. And like, I want to know what change is happening in this particular industry. I don't want to miss any important news or anything like that. So I'll have AI go out automatically and just check what's happening and then come back with a report, with footnotes so I can see like what are the actual links that it's getting the information from. That way you're not missing it. Because the answer to your question is, you have to pay attention going forward in order to be best aware because things are changing very, very quickly. 10 years ago, I could have given you an answer that was more specific. Like in the next 2 years, these things are happening and this is what's going on. Because there's a lot of robotics coming into the situation. There's a lot more AI technology happening, but then there's massive advances. These are all playing with each other that are happening with nanotechnology, with biotechnology, with health and wellness. I mean, there's so many things changing so fast. It's really hard. And as this moves from like, hey, we doubled, we tripled, we quadrupled up to we went up by 100 times. The human brain can't really comprehend. If your company was 100 times more efficient than it is now, what does that look like? I mean, it's hard to process. What about 1,000 times more efficient? If you had 1,000 times the customers with the same amount of employees, what does that look like? Right? AI is bringing us there. So you just want to keep your ear to the ground, pay attention to what's going on.
And so AI is giving companies a way to hire more, to bring on more people without having to hire more human beings, to automate things so that you don't need as many people.
Exactly right. And most of the companies, and that's why there's layoffs and things happening. I'll give you a quick comment on the layoffs. The really, really, really big companies, I think, are going to continue to downsize, like meaning they're over 50,000, 100,000 employees, and they're huge companies. They're going to be continuing to downsize because they're overloaded. The small to medium businesses that are growing can continue to grow with less hires for that growth. So they can keep their same staff going and they can double effectiveness, triple effectiveness, etc. If they're really growing, they can hire some people and continue to do that too. But regardless, the way to the future is embracing AI and getting familiar with it. And everybody can get familiar with it. You don't need, what's great about this, Joe, is for the people who are non-technical. You and I have more technical backgrounds and we have technical clients and so forth. There's a lot, I was on a meeting this morning with a woman who's a professional writer and teacher and speaker. And now she understands the English language, obviously. She can leverage that to go in and partner with AI and let AI solve some of the automation and technical challenges that she may have in her life or with the business that she runs because she knows the English language, so she can use that. That's why ChatGPT really started taking off because it allowed anybody who knows their language, it started with English, but now it's in many languages around the world. Anybody who knows how to communicate with their language, it allows them to unleash the power to do just about anything they want.
Well, thank you for your time on today's, AI, my Connects AI show. I really appreciate your answers about how AI is changing, small, medium, and larger businesses.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Joe. I really appreciate it. I'm passionate to get this out to the world. A lot of companies really need it. You can keep it simple and make things happen. So thank you very much, Joe.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Bye-bye.